You are listening to HOA Spot. The HOA file on me was built on a lie. This is your final warning. Teresa Vaughn yelled it across the mailbox cluster, waving a red folder like it was a court summons. She said she had video proof I forced open the package locker and stole gate fobs. I asked to see the video. She refused. I am a security technician. I live in Cedar Springs, a mixed-age subdivision in Denver, Colorado, where older rules collide with newer owners who do not care about lawn height regulations. Teresa Vaughn is the security vendor point of contact for the Cedar Springs Homeowners Association. She has a cheap plastic badge clipped to her jacket and a huge key ring that jingles every time she moves. She treats the job like she is running a private security state. The package locker door was left ajar that morning. I noticed it on my way to my car. I pulled it shut. 20 minutes later, Teresa cornered me at the mailbox and accused me of forcing it. She said the HOA was missing a container of spare gate fobs and I was the last person near the locker. I told her I closed the door. I did not open it. She said I do not need proof. I have paperwork and vibes. She slammed a stamp on a printed notice like a judge sealing a verdict. The stamp fell apart in her hands. Ink splattered on her jacket. She ignored it and jammed the broken pieces into her pocket. She shoved the notice at my chest. It said I was being charged $250 for unauthorized locker access and theft of HOA property. She said I will escalate this immediately. I asked what video she had. She said she had it, but she was only a messenger. I said, show me. She said she did not need to because she wrote the accusation herself and that was enough. I pointed that out. She said I was twisting her words and she would call the police and report me as a thief if I did not pay by Friday. It was Tuesday. My insurance rates were already high because of a previous claim. If a police report went on file accusing me of theft, my rates would spike again. I needed to clear this fast. I called my mail carrier. His name is Rodney. He delivers to Cedar Springs every weekday and he knows the locker system. I asked if he saw anything unusual that morning. He said he saw Teresa near the lockers around 7 before he started his route. He said she was snooping, opening doors with a master key. He said he would speak up if it helped. I needed more than witness testimony. I needed visual proof. I checked my own doorbell camera. It did not cover the mailbox cluster. I checked my neighbor 2 doors down. She had a camera aimed at the street that caught the edge of the locker area. She let me pull the footage. The clip showed Teresa opening locker doors at 7:15, leaning in and walking away with a small container under her arm. I saved the clip to a portable thumb drive. I also printed a still frame showing Teresa at the locker with the container. I put the printout in a sealed evidence bag with the thumb drive. I was not taking chances. If the portal changed my upload timestamps after I submitted anything, I needed a physical backup. Teresa showed up at my door Wednesday morning. She had 2 neighbors with her. She repeated her catchphrase loud enough for everyone to hear. I will escalate this immediately. She said I threatened her and she was filing a no trespass warning with management. She said I was banned from the clubhouse, the pool, and the mail area until the investigation closed. I asked what investigation. She said she was conducting it. I said that was a conflict of interest. She jingled her huge key ring like it was a badge of authority and said the HOA gave her full discretion. One of the neighbors asked if I really stole the fobs. I said no. Teresa said I was lying and she had the proof. I asked her to show it again. She refused again. I called the Cedar Springs management office. The property manager said Teresa filed a formal complaint and they had to follow the process. I asked to see the complaint. They said they would email it. The email arrived an hour later. The complaint form was a template. It had blank fields filled in with my name, the date, and a generic accusation of theft and intimidation. The form had no signature, no timestamp, no video attachment. I uploaded the doorbell camera clip to the HOA portal. The portal changed the upload timestamp to the current time, not the original recording time. I took a screenshot of the metadata showing the creation date was Tuesday at 7:20 a.m. before I even left my house. Rodney called me Wednesday afternoon. He said Teresa tried to get security to remove him from the mail area that morning. She told them he was interfering with an investigation. The security guard on duty was a third-party contractor who said he needed written authorization before he could remove anyone. Teresa did not have it. Rodney stayed. He said he was leaving town tonight and I should get his statement first. I met Rodney at the clubhouse entrance. He gave me a written statement on paper. It said he saw Teresa at the lockers at 7:15 a.m. on Tuesday, using a master key to open multiple doors and leaving with a container. He signed it and dated it. I put it in the evidence bag with the thumb drive and the printout. Teresa showed up while I was still there. She saw me talking to Rodney. She said I was harassing a federal employee and she would report me to the post office. Rodney said he was off the clock and giving a voluntary statement. Teresa said it did not matter. She turned to the neighbors who were gathering near the entrance and repeated her catchphrase like it was a campaign slogan. I will escalate this immediately. Two neighbors nodded. One asked what I did. Teresa said I stole HOA property and threatened her. She said it loud enough that everyone heard. I stayed calm. I held up the evidence bag. I said I had proof I did not steal anything. Teresa said sealed bags do not mean anything without a chain of custody. I said I had a police report request ready and I was documenting everything. She said I was bluffing. Thursday morning, a tow truck pulled into the parking lot. The driver started lining up to hook my car. I ran outside. I asked what was happening. The driver said Teresa called and reported my vehicle as abandoned and unauthorized. I said I lived here and my car was registered. He said he had a work order. I asked to see it. He showed me a printout with no signature, just a generic description and my license plate number. I called the management office. They said they did not authorize a tow. I put them on speaker. The property manager told the driver to stand down. The driver said he needed written confirmation. The property manager said they would email it. Teresa stepped forward and said the work order was valid because she issued it under her vendor authority. The property manager said vendor contacts do not have towing authority. Teresa said they do if it is a security issue. The driver looked at both of us and said he was not getting in the middle of this. He unhooked the car and left. Teresa said this was not over. She jingled her keyring again and walked away. I went to the sheriff's substation that afternoon. I filed a report for harassment and false accusation. The deputy asked if I had evidence. I showed him the thumb drive, the doorbell camera still, and Rodney's written statement. He watched the clip on his laptop. He said it was clear Teresa was at the locker with a container before I arrived. He asked if I wanted to press charges. I said I wanted the report on file so the accusation could not stick. He wrote the incident number on a card and said I could reference it if Teresa escalated further. He also said he would follow up with the HOA if they filed anything contradictory. Friday morning, Teresa called an emergency vendor meeting at the clubhouse. She sent an email to all residents saying there would be a security briefing about recent thefts. I showed up. About 15 neighbors were there. Teresa stood at the front with a printed slideshow on a portable screen. The slides had no readable text. just generic bullet points and clip art images of locks and keys. She started the briefing by saying the HOA had experienced multiple thefts in the past month. She said a resident had been caught on camera forcing a locker and stealing gate fobs. She did not say my name, but she looked directly at me twice. A neighbor asked who it was. Teresa said she could not disclose names during an active investigation, but the person was present. I raised my hand. I said I had evidence proving I did not steal anything. Teresa said this was not the time. I said it was exactly the time because she was publicly accusing me without proof. I held up the evidence bag. I said I had doorbell camera footage, a witness statement from the mail carrier, and a police incident number. Teresa said sealed bags were not admissible. I said I was not in court, I was in a clubhouse, and she was lying. A neighbor asked to see the footage. I pulled out my phone and played the clip. The room went silent. The clip showed Teresa at the locker at 7:15 a.m., opening doors with a master key, leaning in, and walking away with a container under her arm. The timestamp was clear. It was before I left my house. Teresa said the footage was doctored. I said the metadata was on the thumb drive, and I had the original file from my neighbor's camera. Another neighbor asked why Teresa was at the lockers that early. Teresa said she was doing a routine inspection. I said routine inspections do not involve walking away with containers. A vendor dispatcher who worked with Teresa stood up. He said he needed written authorization before he could support any enforcement action. He asked Teresa if she had authorization to access the lockers that morning. She said she did. He asked to see it. She said it was in her files. He said he needed to see it now. She said she did not bring it. He said that was a problem. He pulled out his own tablet and opened a file. He said he had received 3 other complaints in the past 2 months that used the same template form Teresa was using. He said all 3 had blank signature fields and generic accusations. He said one was about a missing cash box from a neighborhood charity event. He said Teresa was the last one near the table. The room erupted. Neighbors started talking over each other. Someone asked if Teresa had been stealing. Someone else said they had a package go missing last month. Teresa said this was a setup. She said I was manipulating everyone. She said I will escalate this immediately. Her catchphrase landed flat this time. No one nodded. I asked the vendor dispatcher to hold up the complaint forms. He held up 2 printouts side by side. Both had the same template, the same blank fields, the same generic language. One was about me. One was about the cash box. The dates were different, but the structure was identical. The crowd saw the contradiction. 2 people pulled out their phones and started recording. If you are enjoying this HOA revenge story, smash that like button and subscribe for more neighborhood drama where the truth comes out. Teresa tried to leave. The vendor dispatcher blocked the door. He said he was filing a formal report with the HOA and suspending her vendor access pending review. He said he had been watching her for weeks because the complaint volume did not match the incident reports. He said the same complaint template appeared in multiple files, proving someone was mass-producing fake outrage. Teresa said he had no authority. He said his contract gave him full audit rights. He pulled out his phone and called the property manager on speaker. The property manager answered. The dispatcher explained what he found. The property manager said they would launch an immediate investigation, and Teresa was suspended from all vendor duties effective now. Teresa tried to say something. The property manager said she needed to stop talking and leave the premises. The vendor dispatcher escorted her out. The neighbors stayed and asked me questions. I showed them the rest of the evidence. I showed them Rodney's written statement. I showed them the metadata screenshot proving the portal changed my upload timestamp. I showed them the police incident card. One neighbor said she had filed a complaint about a missing package 3 weeks ago. She said Teresa told her it was probably a delivery error. The neighbor said she never got a follow-up. Another neighbor said he had a similar experience with a missing gate fob. He said Teresa told him he probably lost it and charged him $50 for a replacement. I said we should request a full audit of Teresa's complaints and enforcement actions. The vendor dispatcher said he would include that in his report. He said he suspected Teresa had been skimming items for months and using fake complaints to cover her tracks. He said the container of gate fobs she took from the locker Tuesday morning was never reported missing until she accused me of taking it. The property manager called me later that afternoon. She said the investigation confirmed Teresa had unauthorized access logs going back 4 months. She said Teresa had opened lockers, storage closets, and the clubhouse supply room multiple times without documented authorization. She said they found a stash box in Teresa's car with missing items, including the gate fobs, a cash box, and several resident packages. The property manager said the HOA was refunding all charges Teresa had issued in the past 6 months, including my $250 locker access fee. She said they were putting a hold on further fees pending a full review of all vendor complaints. She said Teresa was terminated and banned from the property. She said they were referring the case to the sheriff for possible theft charges. I asked if the no trespass warning against me was lifted. She said yes, immediately. She apologized for the disruption. She said the board would review vendor oversight policies at the next meeting. The deputy called me Monday. He said Teresa filed a counter-complaint accusing me of harassment. He said he reviewed the evidence I provided, the vendor dispatcher's report, and the HOA investigation findings. He said Teresa's counter-complaint was unsupported. He said he was closing it and keeping my original incident report on file. He said Teresa's stash box contained items linked to 3 other residents who had filed missing package reports. He said the sheriff was opening a theft investigation. He said I might be contacted as a witness. I said I would cooperate. The HOA sent an email to all residents Wednesday. The email summarized the investigation and announced Teresa's termination. It said a new vendor contact would be assigned and all previous complaints would be reviewed. It said residents who had been charged fees by Teresa could request refunds through the management office. I requested a copy of all complaints Teresa filed against me. The management office sent a file with 4 separate complaints. All 4 used the same template. All 4 had blank signature fields. All 4 accused me of different violations: locker theft, intimidation, vehicle abandonment, and harassment. None had supporting evidence. The dates ranged from Tuesday to Friday of the same week Teresa was caught. I forwarded the file to the vendor dispatcher. He said he was adding it to the audit report. He said the pattern was clear. Teresa had been using fake complaints as a cover while she stole items and blamed residents. He said the HOA was considering legal action to recover costs. Rodney stopped by Thursday. He said he heard about the investigation. He said he was glad his statement helped. He said he had seen Teresa acting suspicious for weeks but did not know what she was doing. He said other mail carriers on the route had similar stories. He said they were filing a joint statement with the post office about vendor harassment. I asked if he needed anything else from me. He said no, just wanted to check in. He said the mail area was back to normal and the new vendor contact was professional. He said the locker system was working fine. The vendor dispatcher called me Friday. He said the audit was complete. He said Teresa had issued 47 complaints over 6 months. He said 32 used the same template. He said only 8 had supporting evidence. He said the rest were fabricated. He said the HOA was refunding over $6,000 in fees to residents. He said Teresa tried to access the clubhouse one more time Thursday night. He said the new security guard turned her away and called the sheriff. He said Teresa left without incident, but the trespass warning was now on file with the county. A neighbor texted me Saturday. She said the board held an emergency meeting Friday night. She said they voted to replace the security vendor contract. She said they were implementing new oversight requirements for all vendor contacts. She said they were also reviewing the complaint process to prevent template abuse. I went to the clubhouse Sunday to check the bulletin board. The board had posted a notice about the new vendor policies. The notice said all complaints required supervisor review, all enforcement actions required written authorization, and all vendor access logs would be audited monthly. It said residents could appeal any fee by submitting evidence to the management office. Teresa showed up at the clubhouse entrance one last time Monday morning. I was checking my mail. She tried to walk in. The new security guard stopped her. He said she was banned. She said she needed to get her things. He said management would ship them. She said that was illegal. He said he was following the trespass order. She turned and saw me. She said this was all my fault. She said I ruined her job. I said she ruined her own job by stealing and lying. She said I had no proof. I held up the evidence bag. I said I had a thumb drive, doorbell camera footage, witness statements, metadata screenshots, a vendor audit report, an HOA investigation summary, and a police incident number. I said a police report request made the story official and stopped the rumor mill. She tried to grab the bag. The security guard stepped between us. He said she needed to leave now or he would call the sheriff. She said she was only a messenger. I said she wrote the accusations. She said I was twisting her words. The guard said he was calling the sheriff. Teresa left. The property manager called me later that day. She said Teresa was formally charged with theft by the county. She said the investigation found over $2,000 in stolen items in her possession. She said the HOA was pursuing civil action for restitution. She said the board was holding a special meeting next month to review the entire vendor program. She said the board wanted to thank me for documenting everything and cooperating with the investigation. She said my refund was processed and I would see the credit on my next statement. She said the no trespass warning was expunged from my file and I had full access to all amenities. I asked if any other residents were impacted. She said 5 others had similar complaints from Teresa that were now under review. She said the board was reaching out to each one individually. She said the new vendor contact was already working with residents to resolve issues. The vendor dispatcher sent me a final email Tuesday. He said the audit was submitted to the board and the county. He said Teresa's vendor access was permanently revoked across all HOA properties managed by the company. He said they were implementing a new complaint verification system to prevent future abuse. He said my cooperation was critical to the case. Rodney stopped by Wednesday. He said the post office was aware of the situation. He said they were updating their mail carrier safety protocols. He said Teresa had been reported for harassment by 2 other carriers on different routes. He said the postal inspector was involved. He said they appreciated my witness statement. I walked to the mailbox cluster Thursday morning. The locker door was shut. The system was working. No one was snooping. No one was threatening me. No one was jingling keys and pretending to be security. I opened my locker, grabbed my mail, and walked back home. The HOA sent a final update Friday. The email said Teresa pled no contest to misdemeanor theft. She was sentenced to probation, community service, and restitution. The email said the board had voted to implement monthly vendor audits and quarterly resident feedback surveys. It said the complaint process was revised and all fees would require dual approval going forward. I printed the email and added it to my evidence binder. I kept the thumb drive, the doorbell camera still, Rodney's statement, and the complaint templates. I kept the police incident card. I kept the vendor audit summary. I kept everything. I was not taking chances. A neighbor knocked on my door Saturday. She said she was one of the 5 residents impacted by Teresa's fake complaints. She said the board refunded her fees and apologized. She said she wanted to thank me for speaking up. She said she did not know how to fight the accusations and felt trapped. She said seeing me stand up gave her the courage to file her own evidence. I said I was glad it helped. She asked if I was worried about retaliation. I said no. Teresa was banned and charged. She said she heard Teresa was trying to get the charges dropped. I said good luck with that. I said the evidence was solid and the vendor audit covered months of fraud. She said she hoped it stuck. I said it would. The property manager called me the following Tuesday. She said the board reviewed the new vendor policies at Monday night's meeting. She said they passed unanimously. She said the new security vendor started that week. She said the transition was smooth. She said there were no complaints. She said the board wanted to invite me to the next meeting to present the evidence and explain the timeline. She said they wanted to make sure future boards understood what happened and how to prevent it. I said I would attend. The meeting was the following Thursday. I brought the evidence binder, the thumb drive, and printed copies of the complaint templates. About 20 residents attended. The board president opened with a summary of the investigation. She said Teresa Vaughn had abused her vendor access to steal items and frame residents with fake complaints. She said the board took full responsibility for the oversight failure. She introduced me. I walked through the timeline. I showed the doorbell camera clip. I showed Rodney's written statement. I showed the metadata screenshot. I showed the vendor audit summary. I showed the 2 complaint templates side by side and explained how the same form was used to fabricate accusations across multiple residents. I showed the police incident card. The board president asked if I had any recommendations. I said yes. I said vendor contacts should not have unilateral enforcement authority. I said all complaints should require independent review. I said access logs should be audited monthly and shared with residents. I said fees should require dual approval. I said the complaint process should include an appeal window with evidence submission. The board vice president said those were all in the new policies. He said they were implementing them immediately. He thanked me for my thoroughness. He said the board was considering additional transparency measures, including quarterly vendor performance reports and public access logs. A resident asked what happened to the stolen items. The property manager said most were returned to owners. She said some items, like the gate fobs, were reissued. She said the cash box from the charity event was refunded by the HOA. She said Teresa was required to pay restitution as part of her sentence. Another resident asked if Teresa could appeal. The board president said no. The criminal case was closed and the vendor termination was final. She said the civil restitution case was ongoing, but Teresa had no grounds to challenge the evidence. The meeting ended with a vote to accept the new vendor policies. The vote passed unanimously. The board president thanked everyone for attending. She said the next meeting would include a vendor performance review. She said residents were welcome to submit feedback anytime. I walked out of the clubhouse and checked my mail one more time. The locker was secure, the system was working, no one was snooping, no one was threatening me. I grabbed my mail and headed home. Teresa never came back. The vendor audit became public record. The complaint templates were filed with the county as evidence of fraud. The doorbell camera clip was included in the sheriff's case file. Rodney's statement was part of the postal inspector's report. The evidence binder sat on my shelf as a reminder that documentation wins. The HOA refunded charges and put a hold on further fees pending review. Teresa was forced to sit quietly while the evidence was read aloud. A police report request made the story official and stopped the rumor mill. The new vendor contact was professional. The locker system worked. The neighborhood moved on. I kept the sealed evidence bag on my desk. I kept the portable thumb drive in my drawer. I kept the police incident card in my wallet. I kept everything. Because in Cedar Springs, proof is the only thing that matters. Keep your receipts, and I will catch you next time.